This is the Honda ZR-V, and it's my first ever Honda that I'm reviewing on this YouTube channel, and it's a good starting point because this rivals things like the Nissan Qashqai, the Hyundai Tucson, the Kia Sportage. It's in that segment, which is absolutely packed, so it has to fight a good fight. And in this review, we're going to be discovering what it's all about, what it's like to drive, the powertrain, and of course, talking about prices. Styling is subjective, but this grille here is straight from a Maserati Ghibli in my opinion. Now, in terms of prices, well obviously it depends which one you go for. They start at about 55,000 euros, which is not to be sniffed at. It is a lot of money, and it comes in three specs: Elegant, Sport, and Advanced. Now, Elegant is that 55 grand, then it's about 3 grand to go up to Sport, and then an additional 2 grand to get into the Advanced. And they come with different specs, but basic version, actually quite well spec, keyless entry, heated seats, Apple CarPlay, it is very good. Then you can upgrade, get panoramic sunroof, automatic tailgate, loads of different features like that. If you want to learn more about those, then visit a Honda dealer today and they'll be able to give you a little bit more insight than I can. Under the bonnet, we have a 2-litre naturally aspirated engine. There's no turbo, no VTEC, it's just a normal engine, and actually, for the most part, this works as a generator. So it actually powers a battery, which then powers an electric motor, which then powers the wheels. It is very complicated, but what you need to know is that when you put your foot down, it will accelerate, and it kind of works as a normal hybrid system, and it's CVT, which we'll describe a little bit more back on the road. So now that we're in the driver's seat, what's it like? Well, it's pretty good so far. Definitely seems very smooth. There's no massive transition between petrol and electricity like you get in some hybrid cars, and the steering's pretty direct. Suspension's decent. I've read that it's a little bit firm, but so far so good for me. I actually drove it the other night, a little bit enthusiastically in sport mode down here, and it was pretty good. It's not fast, it is about 180 horsepower, but it's not crazy quick, but it's relatively nice to drive for a mid-sized SUV. It also comes as standard with all the usual things you'd expect, including adaptive cruise control, which just means when the car in front of you slows down, you do too. And on a long drive down the motorway, that actually makes a huge difference. It does also have lane assist down here on the right hand side, and I like that it's easy to switch on and off, because sometimes that can interfere a little bit too much, and it's nice not having to go through the infotainment system and turn that off there. It's just a quick touch of a button. So in the interior, well, it's quite nice objectively speaking. However, what I will say is we know what Honda can do. We've seen the Honda E, we know they can be exuberant, and maybe a little bit of that spice in here would have been quite nice. Now, there is a couple upgrades because this is a higher spec car. Things like the digital display in front of you there. Normally you just get kind of a half analog, half digital. There's also heated steering wheel, electric seats. But as a whole, they come quite well spec'd, as we said. Now, we'll start down here. To put it into gear, it's these buttons. That is very Jeep Avenger. I quite like it, not everyone does. This I adore. The climate control is on its own down here. It's dials, it's easy to use. I love that. It's not in the infotainment system like a lot of cars are. The infotainment system here, it works really, really well. It kind of has everything you could possibly need. Most importantly, wireless Apple CarPlay, which just works really, really well. One thing I did notice is that the Apple CarPlay tends to lag a little bit in Google Maps, so you're almost a little bit further ahead on the drive than it thinks you are, which can get confusing as you approach junctions, wondering is this my turn or not. But the biggest and most strange part about it all is this seems to face the passenger, which is a bit weird, especially considering Japanese cars are right-hand drive normally. Anyway, aside from that, it is a lovely place to sit. Overall, really, really do like it. What I will say is when you compare it to something like a Hyundai Tucson or a Kia Sportage, it's maybe a little bit more bland in here. They have like the big screen here, which can kind of be a little bit more engaging, but it is a great, great option. So the interesting thing now is at slow speeds or around town, I'm driving in electric mode, and the engine will kick in if I'm in here for a long time or driving at the speed for a long time. But as I then put my foot on the accelerator, that petrol engine then serves some power to that battery, which then serves some power to the electric motor. It's a very roundabout way. Normally I don't like CVT gearboxes and setups for one reason and one reason only, and it's that they're very revvy. However, Honda have been kind of clever with this. As I accelerate, it fakes a gear change. So it almost seems like I'm going up a gear and having that progress, and it settles the revs a little bit more. And it's a placebo effect, but it's one that works extremely well. So in the rear, I'll give you the good and the bad. So we'll start with the bad. The roof in this higher spec with the panoramic sunroof is very low. I'm not the tallest person, even though sometimes I pretend to be, but I am touching the roof. So if you've tall children, I'd actually advise going for a slightly lower spec. Then on the plus side, there's loads of leg room. Isofix points really easily accessible. This one has heated rear seats. Don't get that in a whole lot of cars. There's a drink holder. It is actually quite a nice rear. So I just say, bear in mind, if you do have tall children, it's probably better to go for a lower spec. Like a lot of cars, there's these paddles here. However, generally in something like a Volkswagen, these are used to change gear, but there's not really gears in this. And they are actually used for regenerative braking. So that petrol engine isn't the only thing that can charge the electric motor, the battery, I suppose. These can too. So as you slow down, if you've got this in full regen mode, it will recoup that power, charge up that battery ever so slightly, which means the electric motor has something to work from. It increases the efficiency. It's not one pedal driving or anything like it, but it does just mean that you're not only relying on fossil fuels to charge up that battery. So there is an electronically opening tailgate. Now in here, this is a bit surprising because it's not the biggest boot in the world, especially not for an SUV. 380 litres. That is the identical size to a Volkswagen Golf. And strangely enough, a Honda Civic actually has a bigger boot than this, which is a bit weird, but it is pretty spacious. There's no load lip, the seats fold down, there's a little bit of storage in there. It does everything that you need it to do. It just could be ever so slightly bigger. Now, a cool feature is this little button up here, because I press that, and let's say you've got shopping bags or whatever you have, and as I walk away, that will then close. That is pretty cool. So there you go, that is our review of this new mid-size SUV Honda. I have to say, it is really enjoyable. I do think the name is a little bit silly. I love the names like Civic, Accord, the Jazz, what a great name. Even the Integra. Why do we have to have part number codes as names? Toyota are doing it too. But names aside, I have to say, it's probably the best CVT system I've ever driven. It's very nice around town. It's a nice, very comfortable and capable car on the motorway. It should be very efficient. And as a whole, it's hard to fault other than those small little niggly things that you're going to get in any car realistically. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this review, please make sure to subscribe and let us know what cars you'd like to see us review in the near future. But for now, that's it for me. We'll see you in the next one.